Welcome to the ReaderHouse Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. Joining me right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable is author Jenny Mills. Jenny, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here with me tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted to say congratulations. You have a new book out called Two Wishes. So, Jenny, can you tell me all about this?
Sure. The book was inspired by my oldest granddaughter. She had asked me to read to her recently, and I found the books she was choosing were lackluster, and I was really looking for some stories with some substance and life values and that sort of thing. I have always admired children's literature, so I delved right in and started writing a book. I was very inspired to write my own story, and the story just kind of evolved from there.
So this is a children's book. Are we talking about younger children, a little bit older children, or all of them? What do you say?
I would say about ages 2 to 8 years of age.
Once you got started on this, Jenny, how long of a journey was it for you? Was this a really long time to write and publish?
The whole entire process took about 16 months from start to completion, and I was really happy with that.
And when it comes to publishing especially, have you done this kind of thing before, or are you new to this whole thing?
Oh, I'm new to this whole thing, so it was a really exciting challenge for me to just kind of jump on board, and I went ahead and wrote the story and was delighted that the publishing house loved my story right off the bat and wanted to work with me.
And once you handed your book off to the publisher, you start that whole process, and there's an awful lot involved. Jenny, what did you find the most challenging part of that publishing process?
Probably the most challenging part was just the waiting back and forth because, of course, they had to go back and forth between departments for the editing and the book edit, the cover edit, the content edit, the illustrations edit. And as a matter of fact, I went kind of my own way with the illustrations. I decided that I wanted to do the illustrations myself with the use of my photography and setting up my main character. Her name is Maya. And in my story, you'll notice that the illustrations are done with a doll that I chose to prop and take the story on through her eyes, basically.
Oh, I love it. And I can only imagine what you were thinking and what you're feeling whenever you finally got to hold this for the first time, your finished product after all that time and effort. What was that like for you?
Oh, that was just amazing. It was such an amazing accomplishment for me. I've just felt so validated that I could become an author and have that kind of checked off, kind of a bucket list kind of thing. And I'm excited because it's kind of launching me into writing more stories. And I have a couple of more books kind of that I'm working on right now.
And yeah, it's official. You're a published author now. And Jenny, when you think about that, what's the most rewarding aspect of it for you?
The most rewarding is just sharing with people that I come in contact with that have written a book, that I am an author. It kind of gives me a whole new title at this stage in my life. And the most exciting part of all of it, to be honest, is when I first had the opportunity and basically rewarding experience of reading this storybook to my oldest granddaughter, whom the book is dedicated to.
While you're writing this or maybe working on other ones, is writer's block ever a thing you have to deal with?
Thankfully for me, no. I have a lot of ideas. I've enjoyed writing my entire life, short essays and things, and all through school. English was one of my favorite subjects, and in college I actually took a children's literature course, and I've just always had a fascination for children's literature, and the ideas kind of flow. I have a lot of ideas in my mind that I just want to put on the page in written form. It's just truly a joy for me.
And now that you're published, you've been through this process, do you have any advice now that you could offer to aspiring authors who are just about to launch off and start doing this?
Absolutely. If you have an idea and you put it into a written format, go ahead and submit it. You'd be surprised, as I was. It just takes off from there. You just got to kind of give yourself a nudge and go ahead and do it. Just believe in yourself.
And when you got started writing Two Wishes, did you pretty much know how it was going to go from beginning to end, or did you just kind of start with an idea and go with it from there and see what happens?
I started with an idea, and it just took off from there. As I started writing, the story just kind of unfolded on its own. It was really almost magical how it happened.
Wow. Well, I really think children are going to love this, and I encourage, if you're listening right now, go seek this out. Again, the book is titled Two Wishes, and it's written by Jenny Mills, and this is published by Christian Faith Publishing. So you can find it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, traditional brick-and-mortar stores, really wherever you normally go to get your books. Well, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight, Jenny. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Right now, here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm really happy to be sitting down with author D. Jake Roberts. Jake, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Well, what a treat. Thank you, sir.
It's a treat for me as well, Jake, and I got to congratulate you. You got a new book out titled Tree Stand Chatter. Jake, can you tell me what readers are going to find?
Sure, glad to. It's a compilation of 50 published newspaper columns, and it's centered around primarily the outdoors. It has a real flavor of devotional reading. I was approached by the editor of the local paper who was looking for someone who would write what he called a faith-based article. And they gave me great license. I could name the name of Jesus. I could quote scripture. I could discuss so many of the experiences and observations I made, and it just flew from there.
I like the title, Tree Stand Chatter. Can you tell me about that?
I can. Each fall, I spend a significant number of hours in a tree stand, which is basically just a terrific observation deck. And I'm a hardy, passionate observer. I like to notice the sounds, the sights, the antics, the uniqueness of virtually every bird, every animal, every centipede. And I find terrific metaphors throughout in order to make a pretty solid point.
So what gave you the idea to take these newspaper columns and collect them into a book and get it published?
Well, once people began reading them and responding, I was heartily encouraged to put it into book form. And so what it is 50 of the almost 300 I've done so far now, columns. And I'll tell you, coming up with the metaphor or the title is the crucial part of this for me. Once I've got that, it's like cruising. I'm not a knock on wood guy, but I've never had writer's block once I have that idea in mind.
So are there certain readers you think this will really resonate with?
I think believers in the Lord Jesus really identify with it, but I also think those that even aren't, but have a great appreciation and the power of their own observations, find it very intriguing. I get a lot of feedback from outdoorsmen, hunters, farmers, ranchers, people with a bird feeder or a bird bath out in front of their yard. It's just very outdoorsy related.
So you've published a lot of columns, you've published this. Are there any other books that you've published before this, or is this your first published book?
This is my first go-around, Corey.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
So when you got that first copy in, after all that hard work, and you got to hold this in your hands that first time, Jake, what was that like for you?
I think probably the word gratifying is as apropos as anything. It arrived in hardback form and in paperback, and each had just kind of a separate flavor. And there I was holding it, and I went, wow, it can be done. And I'm grateful to the publisher. They were very helpful.
When you think about the fact you have all these published columns, you have this published work now, you're a published author, what's the most rewarding aspect of that for you?
I think the personal side for me, I don't know how to exactly word it, but I am so enthralled with the creator of all of this design and detail. And so that's meant a lot to me to be able to express that. But once it's been in the hands of others and I'm getting all this feedback, it's like, wow. And I think it's this connecting factor with folks. They just, I'm not the only guy that's got eyeballs. And just to view this from each other's perspectives has been really special. But I can't emphasize enough this whole matter of I worship the living God, just so impressive and deep. I mean, from the microscopic to the telescopic, I see him at every turn. Colors of a bird, camouflage, something that's only like 3 months old and what all it can do. So I've just become incredibly passionate about that whole realm.
And I think a lot of times we miss so much of that beauty because our lives are so busy. We don't take the time to slow down and just look and listen and just appreciate what's all around us.
I couldn't agree more.
I think this book is going to resonate with so many readers. Again, it's titled Tree Stand Chatter. It's written by D. Jake Roberts, and it's published by Christian Faith Publishing. So you can find this anywhere, really, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Jake, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight. Thanks again for joining me.
Well, you're good at what you do, and I appreciate the encouragement. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Corey.
Woman, Do You Feel Unworthy? That's the name of the new book, written by Sue Doble-Dumoulin, that emphasizes the transformative power of faith and spiritual growth for women. And we're going to talk all about this. Sue, the author, is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Sue, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me tonight.
You're welcome, and thank you for asking.
Absolutely. Sue, can you tell me all about what's inside Woman, Do You Feel Unworthy?
Well, my book is about women who believe they're not worthy, who have little to no esteem, and how they're no different than women from biblical times. It's all about women who need to heal and God's blessings on them no matter what they've done.
That's wonderful. Did you have a specific group of women that you were talking to here, or was it a broader audience?
Really, it's for every age, every color, every creed, every religion for women.
Sue, how did the idea for this book come about? What sparked you to write this?
Oh, okay. Well, I was a very wounded woman with low self-esteem and feeling worthless. I always tried to measure up, even when I didn't know what I was measuring up for. And then, as I was healing, God persuaded me to write about it. So that's what I did.
What does your writing background look like, Sue? Have you ever done anything like this before?
I wrote one other book after my first husband had passed away. It was called Don't Tell Me It's Okay. And it was basically going through dark times and the scriptures that helped me to see I wasn't alone. So, yeah, it's a different kind of book, but it still points to God in the end.
Once you got started writing Woman, Do You Feel Unworthy, how long of a journey was this for you, clear through the publishing and everything?
Really, well, for the writing of it, it only took me about 4 months. Then it sat on my shelf for about 4 years. And then I guess it's taken close to a year since putting it into publishing, to start the process.
Yeah, there's a lot involved in that publishing process. Sue, what did you find the most challenging part of that for you?
I would say the waiting. It teaches you more patience and you realize you didn't have. But in the end, it turned out great. I must say there is one mistake in the book, and I left it there on purpose at the end of the day because we all make mistakes, and that's what makes us feel unworthy sometimes. So it's there as a reminder. Nobody's perfect.
Then after all that time, that hard work, all the waiting that you did, that day finally came, you got your first copy of this in, and you got to hold Woman, Do You Feel Unworthy in your hands. Sue, what was that moment like for you?
Well, I thought, will this help even one person? That was my thought.
Looking ahead, do you have plans maybe to keep writing and publishing more?
Oh, yes. I've already got the first chapter done on Man, You Are Worthy. Plus, I got a sequel of other books. I've done the illustrating. They're on the light side. One is called Women Are Shoestrings, Shoelaces If You Want to Be Fancy. And the sequel to that is Man, You're the Knot in My Shoestring. They're both illustrated books, those are. And so that's what I'm working on now.
And when you think about it, Sue, you're a published author and your books are going out there for the world. What's the most rewarding aspect of that for you?
Is if they look to Jesus for their healing, for their joy, for their truth. He is your life source, and he is the way to freedom. Freedom from all the pain of the past. Freedom to love without all the garbage from your past. To make you complete. And that's in all of them. I'm hoping to get that across to people.
Well, I know this book is going to help a lot of people. Again, it's titled, Woman, Do You Feel Unworthy? It's written by Sue Doble-Dumoulin, and it's published by Christian Faith Publishing, so you can find it everywhere: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Sue, thank you again for joining me and telling me all about this. I had a nice time chatting with you tonight.
Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.
It's the story of a man who awakens from a coma to learn that his wife and daughter are missing. It's in the new book written by David E. Griséz. It's titled From First to Forgotten. And joining me right now is the author, David, and we're going to talk all about this book. David, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you joining me here.
Thank you for inviting me over.
Absolutely. I'm really interested to learn all about From First to Forgotten, David. Can you tell me all about it?
I absolutely can. First off, you were correct, but there's two concurrent stories going on. First one does involve Jackson Frost, a former Marine. He's been in a coma. He wakes up. He discovers 2 years have gone by, and his wife and daughter are missing. So his adventure starts right away where he's been searching for months for his wife and daughter, following leads across the internet, traveling from town to town, wherever the leads take him, and unexpectedly stumbles into a kidnapping in a homeless encampment. So that situation tugs at his conscience. He's a guy who's dedicated to help others, and especially when it comes to the underdog. The other storyline happens concurrently, regards his daughter, Sydney. She's introduced while she's experiencing an odd dreamlike floating sensation. She opens her eyes, discovers she's in a meadow, and the meadow is surrounded by forest. Everything looks pretty normal, but she begins to walk over to the trees. She starts thinking about where the heck she's at, and then she realizes that she doesn't even really know who she is other than her name. She walks to the forest, starts to follow stream, and is startled when she comes across this gigantic bear. Next thing you know, the bear's talking to her. Yeah, okay. Suspend your disbelief. Sounds a little crazy. She's able to understand what the bear is telling her. This is just the beginning of her side of the venture and where both of their journeys start concurrently.
David, what kinds of readers were you writing this for?
Well, I would say that all readers are welcome, but I would say that the book would be a movie rated like a PG. There's some violence, there's some perilous situations, and there's a couple of usages of profanity. I always thought that when you're dealing with bad guys or evil villains, that if something happened or there was some bad circumstance, they wouldn't just say like, oh, fiddlesticks or something like that. So there's a little bit of that. So it's not for the littlest kids. If I was to pick a genre, it would be considered young adult, but I've had positive reviews from both young people and old.
When it comes to writing and publishing and all that, David, is this your first time or have you done this kind of thing before?
I have never done this before. I am a retired shipyard worker. This is my first published novel. It's been floating in my head for a lot of years now, and the time period of the pandemic, and it just kind of gave me a push. I needed to get the story from between my ears and into a written form.
Once you sat down and got started writing this, clear up until it was published and out there for people, how long of a time period are we talking?
Well, from the first time I made the decision to write the book, placed my fingers on the keyboard for that first moment, write the title, write my name, start to finish, close to 3.5 years.
And being your first book, you put all that time and effort into it, that day finally came for you and your first copy came in, you finally got to hold that finished product From First to Forgotten in your hands, David. What was that like for you?
Well, I got a box from my publisher, Newman Springs, and, I knew what it was. They had told me it was going to be shipped, and it was pretty big and heavy. Brought it down, sat it down in the living room, sit there, started to peel back the shipping tape. And, I'll tell you, it was like unwrapping an ancient artifact. For a minute there, I was like Indiana Jones, and it was the Holy Grail. So I'm opening this package, and I'm lifting each one out, and I'm looking at it. It was certainly a childhood dream come true. Really, for me, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, now you're officially a published author. David, when you think about that, what's the most rewarding aspect of that for you?
Well, the best rewards I've had, there's been several, I've gotten from those people who have read the book. There's been no greater feeling than that. Someone has wanted to talk to me about something that happened in the book or tell me about it. Well, I guess it unleashes the flood of feelings. I lived with that story every day, for 3.5 years and all those characters and everything. And so when someone is really interested in what you put on that written word and they tell you, I've read your book and this, I really got excited about it, that thrill still hasn't gotten old yet.
Again, it's titled From First to Forgotten. It's written by David E. Griséz and published by Newman Springs Publishing, so you can find it at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes, traditional brick-and-mortar stores, really wherever you normally go to pick up your books. David, thanks again for coming on the show. It was really nice chatting with you tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me in. And last thing, this book is also now available in an audiobook. It's a long story, 20 hours worth of listening, but it's well worth it. And Michelle Mosley, who did the audiobook, did a fabulous job. Thank you.
The new book by L.M. Starr is a blend of true life and fiction. It's titled A Book of Short Stories and Memoirs. And we're going to talk all about it right now. I have the author sitting right with me now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Ms. Starr, thank you for joining me tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm excited to learn about a book of short stories and memoirs. Can you tell me what readers are going to find here?
They're going to find a little bit of action. They're going to find truth, and they're going to find different levels of emotion. But there's adventure and there's truth. And so it's a fun book.
Was there a certain kind of reading audience that you were thinking about when you were writing it?
Not necessarily. I think this book is pretty okay for anyone to read, from high school on.
So how'd you get the idea to write this? What sparked you?
College. I have an English degree with a creative writing emphasis. And so these stories come from my college years when I went to college in the 90s.
So what does your writing background look like as far as publishing goes? Is this your first published work?
Yes, this would be my first. And it took 14 years, yeah.
Then after 14 years, you finally get your first copy in, you get to hold it in your hands. I could only imagine what's going through your head. What was that like?
I guess it was kind of exciting to see my book. There it was in front of me. And it was a great accomplishment because it did take time and persistence and research, etc. And so the rewarding part is I do now have a book that is published that I have written.
Now, there's the writing of the book, but then there's the publishing of the book, and that's a whole new ballgame there. There's a lot of different things involved. Ms. Starr, what did you find the most challenging part of the publishing end?
I'd have to say all of it. Yeah, because we go through technology now, and so that means the internet. And I'm not that savvy. And so that was probably the biggest challenge is how things are done via the computer and such. And so, yes, it was a learning experience for sure.
I'm looking at it right now, and I love the picture on the cover. Can you tell me all about that?
That is a picture of me in my 20s. Now, it's a caricature picture of me because I figured part of my book is true stories and part of it is just the fictional part of, my creative side. So I figured a caricature would be a perfect cover for the book. I'm not in my 20s anymore either.
So what are the chances that we might see some more from you here in the future, more books?
I have been doing writing. It's been a little bit more on the political side, but I do have actually requests to continue with stories that are written in my book as far as my short stories, my creative side. And so I've been thinking of continuing with a couple of the stories that are in my book. Now, as far as with memoir stuff, that I am continuously writing about, but I haven't put anything together at this time. So yes, it is there. It is starting, and I have a couple of things going right now as far as true story as well as fictional.
Fantastic. Now, this would go primarily towards when you write fiction, but really can cover all writing, and that's writer's block. Do you ever have to deal with anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. I have sat in, I like to write first as far as handwrite and that until I get things going in that. And sometimes it is where I have a moment where I have to reflect. I'll actually write and leave the story alone for a week and go back, or even just a couple of days because of fresher brain, and it does seem to lift itself. The hardest part is writing memoirs and that because some of it is pretty heavy. But yeah, it does happen. It's just a matter of just sitting down and going forward with it or stepping away from it for a minute and then going back.
Well, it sounds like a lot of readers are going to be into this book. I think it's going to resonate with so many people. Again, it's titled A Book of Short Stories and Memoirs. It's written by L.M. Starr and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So you can find it at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Ms. Starr, thanks again for joining me and telling me all about this. I had a nice time talking with you tonight.
I enjoyed you as well. And stay beautiful, by the way. My catchphrase. This is my catchphrase. My catchphrase is stay beautiful. And I say it all the time. I say it to strangers. I say it to people. And so I feel that if we individually try to put positive out there, it will help with making things more positive in each of our lives. as well as hopefully make the world a little better because people are showing more kindness and reflecting upon the more beautiful things of the human condition and everything like that. Have a wonderful day and stay beautiful.
Pastor Freddie E. Dixson Sr.'s new book is a thought-provoking exploration of faith and spiritual warfare. It's titled, Why Is There a Universal Hate for God? And we're going to be talking all about this. The author, Pastor Freddie, is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Pastor, welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining me tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
I appreciate your being here, Pastor. Can you tell me all about your book? What can readers expect, and why is there a universal hate for God?
Well, I was inspired to write this book, and everybody, my handwriting, my wife was one of my motivators. And when I look at the world around me and the things that was taking place upon the world and which we don't have any control of, and I'm just reminded that Satan himself is the present power of the air. And through studying, and being a clergyman, I does a lot of study and observation, and I always was observative and alert about some things in life. And if God created us, He created us, number one, to love one another and to share one another, to work with one another and be there for one another. He says nothing about hate because He created all of us. It doesn't matter what gender, what race, what creed, or what color you are. God created us, all of us, in His image and in His likeness. And I need the people of this world to see that because everybody, the songwriter, first of all, there's a songwriter that says that what the world needs now is love. I go with that partially, but I believe what the world needs now is Jesus versus love because God is love. When you look all through the Bible, first in the epistles of John, chapter 4, and all the 3 chapters of the epistles of John, it talks about God and His love. It didn't say God has love. He is love. And so I want the people to see that there's a better way, amen, to live. And that's not warring and killing and destroying and hating one another. God is a love is hate because if He wasn't a God of love, none of us, I think, would be here. And so this would prompt me to write this book because what I see that's around me, even in the small communities and gated communities, it doesn't matter where you live at or who you are. Satan has a tendency to bank on his promises because he said he was going to and fro and down the earth to seeking who he made that vow. The word say made, it didn't say can. In other words, that strips him of his accessibility right there. He may not if I do not. So that would prompt me to write this book because when I read the Bible and I understand the Bible and it's from the very mouth of God, and when I see what God is love, and He told His disciples when you get to John chapter 15 and verse 18, He said, if the world hates you, you know that the world hated me before it hated you. So this would prompt me to start writing, why is there a universal hate for God? And then before you can really understand and the people really can see it and get an idea what it is, we got to find out what is hate and why does it have so much power even to run someone's entire life and destroy the lives of others.
Pastor, what sort of readers did you have in mind when you were writing this? Was there a specific group?
Well, people who love to read. It's for all class of people or people in high position, people in low position. In other words, it's for whosoever will.
Now, when it comes to writing and publishing and everything, have you done this before, or is this your first book?
This is my first one, I must say, sir. This is my first one, and I'm elated about it, and I thank the good Lord for the people that published it for me and still working on getting it off the ground and everything. Everyone that plays a part on it, I'm really excited about that. But this is my very first one. But I can say this, sir, that I have been writing a long time because I love to write. Even at the age of 8 years old, I was writing. I was practically raised in the church. At the age of 8 years old, I would see ministers and clergymen and anybody who, was in the Bible and reading. I would have my little book. I would have a paper and writing everything down. I practically been writing, but I never understand what I was writing at that age, but I knew I loved to write.
Well, I really think this book is going to be a real blessing to a lot of readers. Again, the title is, Why Is There a Universal Hate for God? It's written by Pastor Freddie E. Dixson Sr., and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So you can pick this up anywhere, really, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Now, Pastor, it's been so nice talking with you and finding out all about this book. Thanks again for being here tonight.
God bless you, Mr. Corbin. Thank you for the podcast interview, and I appreciate it, and you have a blessed day now.
Author Terri Carbone's new book, AI Made Easy, A Beginner's Guide to Artificial Intelligence, is an essential handbook for navigating the future of technology. We're going to talk all about this book right now. The author, Terri, is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Terri, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you joining me tonight.
Thank you, Corey. It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm really interested in AI Made Easy and what readers can find here, Terri. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, AI Made Easy, the Beginner's Guide to Artificial Intelligence, is for readers to gain confidence, awareness, critical thinking, and safety with the new world of AI. It's so important that they learn quickly and right away.
What sparked you to write this? What gave you the idea?
You know, I do a lot of AI projects, and I've been involved in AI since 2015. I have an MIT certification, and I saw more and more things changing and people being confused and afraid. And I thought, it's important that I help them understand and be able to make critical decisions in their lives and be safe.
Yeah, AI is huge right now. This is a book that's definitely needed. Did you have specific readers in mind for this, or was this really broad?
I want all ages to read this book. I have specifically put on the cover all ages, including seniors, even young teenagers. I think everyone needs to understand, the basics of AI. What's a large language model? How does marketing use AI? Just really important. And how are you safe? How do you keep your safety through using AI effectively?
That's really important. Once you got started on this, Terri, how long was this? How long did it take you?
About 4 months, because I have a wonderful writer that I work with. And once I had the passion, I've used her in my other book. And so her and I have a real wonderful relationship. And so we just started with the most important things and worked through what would be important to each person.
So you have experience writing and publishing. This isn't your first one.
That's correct. I published a work called Project Sponsorship, Winning Strategies for Executive Leaders, and it sold internationally, which is very exciting. And it's interesting because that particular book talks about making sure you understand what you're going to accomplish in your projects. And I'm finding that people are doing AI projects and not making sure that their team understands AI. So they're having a lot of trouble. So I'm thinking the two actually feed into each other about really understanding and communicating your goal, as well as teaching the basics to your team so your AI projects can be successful. So I'm going to be speaking at some of the PMI conferences and things like that about communications are the success for your AI project.
So you have the writing of the book, and then you have the publishing of the book, and that's a whole new ballgame. There's a lot involved there. When it came to the publishing end of things, Terri, what did you find the most challenging part of that for you?
I think Hodgson Jenkins has been incredibly wonderful to work with. We went through step by step. There was a lot of hours that I put in. I had pre-readers, which was fun. I had readers of all ages do my pre-reading. And getting through that part of it where I felt really comfortable that it was the audience I wanted and they were all comfortable. From 70 to in their 20s, I had people read it. Then I felt good about working through Hodgson Jenkins' steps, but they've been fantastic.
And after all that hard work, there's nothing like seeing that finished product. That day comes, you get the first copy, you hold it in your hands. Terri, what's that like?
Oh, isn't that wonderful? I mean, you turn it over, you read it cover to cover, and then you call your friends and put it on Facebook and make sure everyone knows because you wanted so much to make a difference, and that's you have it in your hand to make a difference.
And when you think about it, you're a published author. What's the most rewarding aspect of that for you?
So I think it's about taking something I feel very passionate about that's going to affect people's lives and making a difference. People often say, I want my life to make a difference. Well, if there's something that you know and it's harming or holding other people back, or you could make their lives better and you have an opportunity to impact that.
Well, AI is out there everywhere, and this is a book I think you should definitely check out. Again, it's titled AI Made Easy, A Beginner's Guide to Artificial Intelligence. It's written by Terri Carbone, published by Hodgson Jenkins Publishing. So you can find this everywhere. Go on over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. You'll be able to find this. Well, Terri, it's been really wonderful talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, Corey, it's been a huge pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
The new book by Cindy Woods is a story of transformation and redemption. It's titled Half the Man, Twice the Faith, the Rick Selesky story. And not only am I joined by the author, Cindy, but the man this book is written about, Rick, is here with me as well. Cindy, Rick, welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I really appreciate you being here with me tonight.
Thank you, Corey. It's a pleasure to be here, and we're so excited about this opportunity to talk with you.
Yes, thank you very much for all of this.
I certainly appreciate your time. So, Cindy, Rick, can you tell me about this book and what readers can find?
This is Rick's life story. And it's the story of how he learned to take control of his health in a faith partnership with God. Rick, do you want to say a little bit about what you think the book's about?
Yes, the book is about me and my journey about losing over 300 pounds, but really the book is about faith. The book is about how I partnered with God to lose all this weight. It's about how anybody is, whatever they're struggling with in life, if they would just rely on their faith, they can accomplish whatever their goals are going to be. Mine was losing weight, but whatever they're going through, we wrote the book because we wanted to help people get over whatever problems they're having in life. We wanted them to find another way of doing it. And by reading the book and reading about my story, hopefully they'll accomplish that. And they'll say, hey, we can rely on God. We can rely on our faith to accomplish that. And that's why we wrote the book. It's just to really help people. There's a lot of stuff going on in this world these days, and it's very difficult. And we wanted just to put something out there to help them.
I love it. So how did this come about? How did you decide to write this book?
You know, Corey, it was really God who brought us together through other people that were in both of our lives. But I think the bigger story is why Rick decided to tell his story at this particular time. Rick, do you want to speak to why this point in your life you wanted to tell the story?
Yeah, because, it's 2000 and from 2000 to 2002, I lose 300 pounds. I get married, we have kids. And then during COVID, I gained some of the weight back and I get all the way back to 315, then I lose weight again. And it was at that time where it really struck me to say, how is this all happening? And it was like, I realized with Cindy's help, when I first met Cindy and we started talking about all this, it was faith. It was God. It was God. God has always been pursuing me. I just didn't realize it. The second time of losing weight and meeting Cindy and doing, writing the book, it made me think, wow, God is really, this is what this is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about how I partnered with God to lose weight, how losing weight was just a platform for me to get out there to help people to, help them with their faith.
And Corey, it was really amazing as I talked not only to Rick, but to the other people in his life. It was very clear that God used them as well. And that's what makes it such a fascinating story. The people that God put into Rick's life, when Rick didn't even recognize God's hand in his life. And yet these people over and over would say to me, I really felt called to do this, or I really felt called to help Rick. And so it becomes a fascinating story of a pattern that Rick didn't see until he was able to have hindsight.
So you decided to write this book. You got started on it. How long of a journey was this for you? Was this a long time coming?
It took about a year to get the stories and write the book before it was submitted to the publisher, because this was a very research-intensive story. It took a long time to have Rick tell his full story to me. And then there were a lot of other characters in the story that needed to be interviewed. And then I had the responsibility of weaving all those stories together into a unity that made it a really good read for the readers.
Well, wow, this story is so inspiring, and I encourage everyone out there, definitely check this book out. Again, the title is Half the Man, Twice the Faith, the Rick Selesky story. It's written by Cindy Woods, published by Christian Faith Publishing. So go on over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. You'll be able to find this. Cindy, Rick, it's been a real pleasure talking with you tonight and learning about this story and what went into the book. Thanks again for being here with me.
Thanks for having us, Corey. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
I love the message of the new book that's written by John Ekdahl. It encourages readers to celebrate every joy in life. It's titled A Bible of Smiles, Reminders of the Joy and Happiness that Surrounds Us. And I get to talk all about this book. The author, John, is with me here right now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. John, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure. I was excited to prepare the book.
I'm excited to be talking with you. Can you tell me all about A Bible of Smiles and what we can expect here?
Well, the book was written really out of a miraculous recovery. I had cancer, 12 tumors, stage 4, and was all set to die. And halfway through my chemo, I started to feel better. My doctor did a head-to-toe scan and said, you know what? It disappeared.
Wow.
Out of the joy, I wrote 3 songs and 2 books. And this one for children was the outcome of the absolute joy I felt. I was bragging about it to my sister, and she said, well, you're a good writer. Why don't you put something down in writing about smiling? We did a little bit of drafting, and this is the outcome.
John, what sorts of readers do you think would enjoy this the most?
I picture kids from maybe 2 to 10 sitting on the lap of a relative who's just going to flip through it. The nice thing about the setup in the book is there's 90 photos that would make a child smile. You don't have to open it to any order. Just open up any of the pages that would give you a glimpse of the images that are in there. I think they would bring joy. There are different sections, and let me explain what I'm getting to. The section on food, the first page is a stack of Oreos. What kid doesn't smile at Oreos?
Mm-hmm.
Or picture the animals in the petting zoo, or camping, fishing, birthday parties. It's loaded with lots of nice images. The idea is it's family, faith, and fun. And the whole idea is to get across the idea that sitting with a relative in comfort and safety and looking at these wonderful photos should bring great joy. At the end of it, I make this a book and a project. And when I give the book away, I give away a blank book with insert pages where you could put a photo. On the very last page of the book, I said, if you enjoyed this experience, why don't you and the child go find your photos in the iPhone, Android, camera, closet, wherever, and build your own fun, your own book of smiles. It's designed to be a holiday gift and maybe something that could just be picked up once in a while to enjoy what God has given us.
Well, once you got started writing this, John, how long of a journey was this for you? The whole thing clear up until it was published?
Front to back was probably 6 months. It was a little bit back and forth of getting the right phrases, the right Bible phrases. With a lot of the photos, I put some images and explanations, and there might be a Bible verse or there might be an explanation. I've got one of me picking out my puppy, and you can see all the blue ribbons, and I'm holding him up. He's got his nose right to my ear. And I said, he's saying to me, pick me, pick me. So as you go through the different images, it takes a while to put the right words with the right photo. I can't say enough good things about Covenant. I designed the cover because I thought, well, it's got to have an open Bible and some joy. But what I thought is it's an open Bible with like a big sunshine. But with a little guidance from the publisher, it took 6 months front to back to put it all together and get it on the street.
And there's nothing like seeing that finished product, John. And once that day came, you finally got your first copy in and you got to hold it for the first time. What was that like?
Well, it was so exciting. My wife says, there's a big box on the sidewalk outside. I hope it's what I think it is. And I went outside and it opened up, and here's a book with half soft cover and half hardcover. I couldn't wait to get those in my hand. As soon as I did, I had to sit down and write a list of all the friends and relatives that I knew needed a copy, and I ordered another 50, I think. And I've gone through those, and I'm ordering another 50.
Well, I think this book is going to bring a lot of smiles to readers. Again, it's titled A Bible of Smiles, Reminders of the Joy and Happiness that Surrounds Us. It's written by John Ekdahl and published by Covenant Books, so you can find it everywhere. Go on over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes or traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick it up. Well, John, thanks again for joining me and chatting with me here tonight. I had a really nice time.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the support and encouragement that you've all provided me.
Right now, here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm really happy to be sitting down with author Meeyoung Choi. Meeyoung, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here with me.
Hi, thank you. It's my pleasure being here.
Well, the pleasure's all mine, Meeyoung. I just wanted to say congratulations. You have a book out titled Love Letter, Children of Malawi, Africa. Can you tell me all about this, Meeyoung?
Sure. It's a book containing 100-ish color pencil drawings by Malawian children aged between 4 to 18. And then I wrote a story about their lives, children's lives in Malawi in a kind of fiction way. I made a kind of fictitious girl named Tia Mike living in Malawi, and she's kind of writing a message or letter to the reader and telling, the lives and children's thinking and views and, their families, their dreams in a book.
So how did you get the idea for this, Meeyoung?
I lost my husband when I was 40-year-old, which was like 2011. And then I was kind of lost, in life, and I was really eager to find the meaning of, my life after, that painful death. And I had at the time, a long list of bucket list, what to do. And then I crossed out most of the item, but one item only remaining was, going to Africa before I die or, before long after. So I took the tour arranged by one of the largest NGO in Korea called Good Neighbors. They had sponsored group tour to Malawi. At the time, I've never heard of the country itself. I didn't know it existed. But I took the tour and I went there and met the thousands of, so pure and beautiful children at a primary school, like tens of miles away from its capital. It was a primary school, from kinder to ninth grade. And it was a school without school building. Classes were done on a bare, muddy ground. Still, all the children didn't seem to care. They were all glistering in their pure smile. They looked so happy and they greeted us so warmly. We all knew that Malawi was one of the poorest countries in the world. And we all knew that, not everyone will survive, until if they become 20-year-olds. Not every kid, will be surviving because of AIDS and, all those, harsh living conditions. But in spite of, such, they are so much more vibrant and more grateful, so kind, embracing their harsh lives, which was really shocking to me because I was working in Wall Street, making a lot of money. But, after death, I was so poorly, sad and, unsatisfied and, lost and misery. So those children awakened me that I lived a wrong life or I had such a wrong, life purpose. So I thought that, just to pay back, their teaching to me, I wanted to do anything. So it ended up building the school. I raised money and, had some funding from my own business. And then, I kind of promised them at the time that I would do anything to help them make their dream come true because they taught me a life's lesson that I was seeking. So I kept doing my efforts to raise money and, making money and donating my business profits to them. And this book is kind of born on that journey of promise.
What are the chances that we might see another book from you in the future?
I don't have any plan, but if God's will, then yeah. Yeah.
Well, what a wonderful book this sounds like. I think a lot of readers are going to love it. Again, the title is Love Letter, Children of Malawi, Africa. This is written by Meeyoung Choi and published by Covenant Books, so you can find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Meeyoung, it's been wonderful talking with you tonight. Thanks again so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. God bless you, Corey.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.